Hello, welcome back to my channel. The Ashes series 2023 has just concluded, and it was not just a series. It was an absolute roller coaster of a journey over 5 test matches across a grueling English summer. So, over this 6 video series, I'm going to review each of the tests. So, before the series started, there was a lot of hype and a lot of build up, as is the case before every Ashes series. The whole build up was around Bazball graces the Ashes. How will Pat Cummins-led Australia, who are World Test champions, respond to Bazball? Will they be able to survive it? What will the strike rate of the English batters be? Moeen Ali has come out of retirement, test retirement, because of a one-word WhatsApp message from skipper Stokes that read Ashes? Question mark. Will this be Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad's last test series? So a lot of build-up, a lot of hype.
Before we start this video, I want to say heartiest congratulations to the magnificent team at ISRO for successfully landing Chandrayaan 3 on the lunar surface on the 23rd of August. It was a truly memorable moment for all Indians. India, in fact, became the first country to ever land on the south pole of the moon, so a very historic moment as well. Now, let's get to this video. So the Ashes caravan shifted from Edgbaston to the iconic Lords, with the Aussies leading the series 1-0. In my previous video, I reviewed the first test match, and if you haven't watched it, then certainly do so. I'll put the link up somewhere here, it'll pop up just now. So, and I'll also leave the link in the description of the video, so certainly do check that out. But moving on to the second game, Moeen Ali, before the game, was unfortunately ruled out after hurting his finger in the first game. England won the toss and decided to bowl first, and let's just say that was a poor decision because Australia plundered their way to a massive 416 runs. David Warner finally got going in the Ashes as he scored 66, and he looked well set for a biggie actually, but unfortunately got out for 66. Steve Smith, however, batted beautifully for his emphatic 110 and got his name up on the iconic Lord's Honours Board for the second time in his career. Travis Head, a man who was having a brilliant summer, which started with 150 against India in the World Test Championship final and a 50 at Edgbaston, scored a quicker than a runner ball 77. He's really matured into that number 5 that Australia have been looking for so long. As for England, Robinson and Tongue bowled well for 3 wickets each. Even Joe Root chipped in with 2 key wickets, those of Head and Green. England batted and did so pretty well, you've got to say. They blasted their way to 325 in less than 80 overs, scoring at an impressively quick 4.5 runs an over and highlighting the new Bazball approach. Ben Duckett, who loves playing at Lords, as he got his first home test 100 there, scoring 182, played an aggressive brand of cricket, scoring 98, falling agonizingly close of another Lords test 100. And the way he got out too was a proper representation of his mindset and approach, as he looked to pull a good length ball by Hazelwood for 6 over square leg on 98 and ended up getting caught out in the deep. Harry Brooks scored a quick 50 as well, but nobody else really contributed significantly as England eventually folded for 325. The aging Mitch Starc showed once again why he is still very effective as he tore through the England middle order, claiming 3 important wickets, those of Root, Brook and Stokes. During the innings, veteran off-spinner Nathan Lyon, who was playing in his 100th consecutive test match for Australia. That's right, his 100th consecutive game for Australia. Not his 100th test match, his 100th consecutive game. In his 100th consecutive game, he unfortunately pulled his hamstring really badly while fielding and was ruled out of not just the game, but for the rest of the Ashes. Travis Head stepped up in his place and bowled some delightful looking offies. As he took 2 wickets as well. I mean, after this Ashes, you cannot really call Joe Root and Travis Head as part-time spinners. I feel they're a notch above that. Australia's second innings was not as good as they would have liked, as England's disciplined bowling only allowed them 279, and the only half century coming from Edgbaston centurion Usman Khawaja, who scored a very patient 77. And Stuart Broad, just like Mitch Starc, proved that age is just a number as he took four important wickets for England. Then came England's chase, and they were chasing a stiff 370 for victory. Things started off in the worst way imaginable for them as they were reeling at 45 for 4 at one point. But then in walked one of the finest all rounders of our generation, Captain Benjamin Andrew Stokes. All of England's hopes rested on his shoulders, and all England fans were hoping for a miracle from him, just like the one that he had delivered against that very opponent in the Ashes 4 years ago. Jonny Bairstow got out in a very controversial manner. Everyone watching this probably already knows what happened, but for those who don't, Bairstow just let a short ball from Cameron Green on the last ball of the over sail through to Carey by ducking underneath it. And in a moment of complete absent-mindedness, believing the ball to be dead, he wandered out of his crease to chat with his partner. However, Carey was alert and immediately underarmed the throw with pinpoint accuracy to dismiss Bairstow's start. Australia appealed, the TV umpire Murray Erasmus confirmed the inevitable, and all hell broke loose at Lord's. Instinctively and by law, it was out. It was a dozy piece of cricket from Bairstow. But this was one of those moments where the spirit of the game, which is as vague as the law is conclusive, emerges from its slumber. We've seen these dismissals before too, such as when India ran out Ian Bell at Trent Bridge in 2011, when he thought that the session was over, only for MS Dhoni, the great MS Dhoni, to withdraw the appeal during the tea interval and allow the Englishman to continue his innings. But that is what sets MS Dhoni apart from every other cricketer and captain on the planet. This time, however, there were no such thoughts among the touring side, and Lords erupted in resentment, with chants of same old Aussies always cheating ringing around like church bells for the rest of the game. Stuart Broad was also overheard on the stump mic telling Carey, "This is all you will ever be remembered for." All of a sudden, Alex Carey, who's usually a very soft-spoken guy who stays away from the limelight and spotlight, became the one and the only villain of every England fan. After the incident, for not just the rest of the game, but for the rest of the series, every time the ball went to Carey, the entire crowd would start booing him and making the atmosphere really hostile for him. But hey, he did nothing against the rules of the game, because this is what keepers do when a spinner is bowling and they have left the crease, right? So why not do it when a pacer is bowling? He did what he needed to do in order to help his team get closer to victory. In fact, you never know, this might just become the new trend for keepers, and we might see a lot more of this type of dismissal in world cricket. In fact, I praise Carey. I praise Carey for his presence of mind as well as accuracy to hit the stumps from such a distance with gloves on. Here's the video of the incident. Certainly let me know in the comments whether you think Carey was justified in doing what he did, or whether it was something that he could have maybe avoided.
That's another short ball. Oh, now this is going to be interesting. Jonny Bairstow's walked out of his crease here. This could well be out. I don't think there was a call of over. Jonny Bairstow's ducked and then walked out of his crease. Alex Carey's just thrown the ball at the stumps and hit them. This is going to be interesting.
Can you give me a sidearm, please? Roll through, please. the decision for the big screen.
At the other end, having ground and guided his way to 62 by that point, the inner monster in Ben Stokes got the trigger it needed to wake up. He unleashed a truly jaw-dropping assault on Australia's bowlers. Ben Duckett played well once again at his favourite hunting ground and he scored 83. But after he and Jonny Bairstow got out, England won 93 for 6. And Ben Stokes went bonkers. He started hitting sixes for fun, literally. He hit 3 consecutive sixes off Cameron Green to get to his 100 and just kept hitting 6 after 6 after 6 after 6. Everybody watching thought that he is going to miss time 1 in the air and the fun is going to end, but he would just not let that happen as he raced his way to 155. By lunch, as the players returned to the iconic Lord's Pavilion and ugly scenes between some MCC members later banned and the tourists unfolded, England were 243 for 6, with still 128 runs required. Then Stokes pumped his second ball of the afternoon from Hazelwood over the long-on fence, and someone who had burned himself onto the retinas of every single Aussie 4 years ago had been reliving the carnage that day. But from there, a tense game of cat and mouse unfolded. The England captain found the strike with the fielder spread to all parts of the ground as he started building a partnership with Stuart Broad. But it was a partnership as lopsided as a Russian election result, you can say. As Stokes and Broad put on 108 runs together, with Stokes contributing 93 and Broad just 11. It was at around this moment that the nightmares of Headingley would have certainly creeped into the Aussie minds, especially when a catch of Stokes' mishit went up into the air and Steve Smith, usually as safe as houses in the field, dropped a dolly. Remember that 4 years ago, Marcus Harris had dropped a similar high catch in literally the same position in the game, with Stokes going bonkers then as well. And as we all know, Stokes eventually went on to win the game for England. So scary, scary similarities between the two games. Both Stokes and Broad had shown immense courage as well, with both getting pinged on the helmet more than once, and Stokes even suffering a painful blow flush on the elbow from Cummins. As every minute passed when Stokes was there, England and their supporters were getting increasingly hopeful of potentially another miracle from Stokes, and believed that England could certainly draw the series 1-1 after 2 games. But this time, there was no miracle. No great escape to talk about. Ben Stokes, hero of Headingley in 2019, produced one of the finest hundreds in Test cricket's 146-year history, but at 3:14 p.m. on a truly crazy 5th day, he stood there, hunched over his bat, crestfallen, and finally cracked open. England was 7 wickets down, still 70 runs short of their enormous task, and Lords was stunned. Unfortunately for England, the tail did not wag at all. Carey started the procession by pouching an easy high chance to get rid of Stokes. Then the rest just crumbled like a pack of cards. A 2-0 lead in the Ashes series was then within touching distance for Pat Cummins and his impressive boys, and it was duly wrapped up an hour later and by a 43-run margin. However, even though Australia won, England would have really felt pleased and content knowing that they nearly salvaged a victory from the jaws of defeat by giving it their all, and thanks to one man and one man only. As for Australia, injury concerns were real and big, with Nathan Lyon on crutches since day 2 and ruled out of the rest of the Ashes. So 10 years from now, when people think about the Lord's Ashes Test of 2023, they'll think of 2 things. First, Alex Carey and his lovely act behind the stumps, and secondly, Ben Stokes' heroic madness, which just nearly, was enough. That's all for today. Thank you very much for your time. Australia took a 2-0 lead in the Ashes, as the action then shifted to Headingley. Stay tuned as I will cover that game as well as all the other games of the Ashes in this video series. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe. Goodbye.